Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, July 17th, 2024, 5:15 regular Planning Commission meeting. The meeting will now come to order. Tonight's invocation will be given by Ms. Musayeb, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Flores.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the ability to come before you with this commission. We invite you to be here with us this evening and to grant us wisdom with each case and situation that is presented before us tonight. In your name we pray.
And please stand, place your right hand over your heart. We're ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Commissioners, please announce any item you're recusing from due to a conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call of the Planning Commission?
Sure, Commissioner Bada
Present.
and Chairperson, I just wanted to note that Commissioner Leon and Vice Chairperson Mendez will be excused from today's meeting unless there are any objections. If there are no objections, Commissioner Ramirez
Present.
and Vice Chairperson De La Rosa, I'm sorry, Chairperson De La Rosa.
Present. All right, we will now begin with item number 1 on the agenda. May we please have the staff report, Ms. Musayeb?
If I may, Chair. Let me just, Lloyd Pilchin, let me just say that to explain the first public hearing item. At the last meeting, the direction was given for the conditional use permit case to for staff to prepare findings for a denial. So that case has been withdrawn by the applicant. So that's not coming back with findings. It's just been withdrawn. So this first item, there's no action. It's just going to be an announcement about that. Nothing needs to be voted on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff, and public. For the record, my name is Mona Mosayeb, Associate Planner with the Bell Gardens Planning Division. This is a item number 2027-006 is a continuation of a public hearing that was heard on June 19, 2024. Since then, the applicant has withdrawn the application for CUP 2024-006 and DA 2024-006. The applicant has submitted a new application that will be discussed in agenda item number 2. There were 42 written comments received by email in opposition of item number 1, which have been distributed to the commissioners and will be incorporated to the minutes and made available as a part of record.
All right. Uh,
So this item is
Yeah.
just a motion to receive and file.
Motion to receive and file. May I have a second?
I second that.
We please have a roll call.
Sure, Commissioner Bada,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yes.
and Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes. And now we will begin with item number 2 on the agenda. At this time, we will open public hearing at 5:23 p.m. May we please have the staff report, Ms. Musayeb?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff, and public. Again, for the record, my name is Mona Mosayeb, Associate Planner with the Bell Gardens Planning Division. And this presentation is to discuss conditional use permit and development agreement 2024-054 as it relates to the city and Department of Cannabis Control storefront retail license request at 7601 Eastern Avenue. The applicant, BG Flower LLC, represented by Aram Ekimyan, is requesting the Planning Commission to first, determine the project categorically exempt based on the common sense categories from the provision of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to state CEQA guidelines. Two, approve a conditional use permit authorizing cannabis retail use in an 1,821 square foot suite within a commercial planned development to be built at the subject site. And third, recommend to the city council approval of an ordinance to enter into and execute a development agreement with the applicant and property owner, who are both represented by the same person, as prepared by staff, to vest certain development rights in exchange for public benefits for up to 10 years. The site is located at 7601 Eastern Avenue. It is zoned C4, heavy commercial, and has a land use designation of RC, regional commercial. The subject site is 24,571 square feet with the surrounding uses of C4 zoned to the north, east, and south with parking, medical, and commercial uses. C4 on the west with an office use. The current site condition as shown is a vacant lot ready for development. The applicant proposes a commercial plan development of 7,678 square feet, 4 structures containing 7 total units on the subject site. The proposed cannabis retail would occupy a 1,821 square foot site at the northeast corner of the site, highlighted in yellow. The applicant proposes improvements to the site, including 30 parking spaces, proposed landscaping, and lighting throughout. Access to the site is via a 2-way approach located on Priory Street. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back to point out. Also included in the development of the site is a security restroom, as well as the trash enclosure. Within the suite itself, approximately 1,000 square feet would be dedicated to retail use, highlighted in green. Also included would be staff, storage areas, a limited access area, and a staff restroom. If approved, conditions of approvals would address issues such as, but not limited to, operation and maintenance of the site, security, age restrictions, and hours of operation. Staff and the applicant have negotiated the terms of a development agreement. Staff recommends approval of the development agreement contained within the report materials that would provide an initial 5-year term, subject to an option to extend for another 5 years for a total of 10 years. In return, the applicant would provide an annual community benefit in the amount of $100,000 per year, renewed every January. And the applicant would also be required to pay a quarterly community benefit equal to 7% of gross receipts. At the regularly scheduled City Council meeting of June 10th, 2024, City Council considered 2 DAs for 2 other applications and approved a quarterly community benefit rate of 7%. Based on those actions, this would require the applicant to pay a quarterly community benefit rate equal to 7% of gross receipts. The Planning Commission may recommend that the City Council approve the DA 1, as is, 2, recommend approval but with a different quarterly community benefit rate, and or provide recommendations on their terms, on other terms, or third, recommend disapproval of the DA. 80% of all community benefits would be dedicated towards the city's youth and educational programming and for the city's housing programs. Benefits to be utilized for youth programming, after-school programs, sports programming, personal enrichment classes, or capital improvements on city-owned properties, and housing programming and long-range planning, including but not limited to affordable housing, rent stabilization, and tenant protection efforts, and other planning efforts. Excuse me. The applicant's request is consistent with the City of Bell Gardens General Plan. Land Use Policy 3, the city shall promote compatible commercial development to emphasize commercial identity, to enhance the appearance and potential economic vitality and revitalization of the commercial areas in the city. And Land Use Policy 5, the city shall provide an environment to stimulate local employment, property value, community stability, and economic vitality in existing local businesses. Chapter 9.12 of the commercial zone and Chapter 9.48 of the Eastern and Florence Standard Avenues are consistent with the plans that we have received from the applicant. The applicant is also compliant to Section 9.50.050 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code. Those are the bases for the determination of approval or denial. They are compliant. And Section 9.20.160, the applicant is also compliant. The proposed cannabis retail use would be conditionally permitted in an 1,821 square foot retail space in a 7,678.2 commercial plan development and would be consistent with the development standards contained in Bell Gardens Municipal Code Chapter 9.12, which is a commercial development standards, as well as the Eastern and Florence standards contained in Chapter 9.48. The development agreement, as negotiated by staff, vests the right to operate a cannabis retail facility in exchange for community benefits, including funding for the city's housing and youth and recreational programs for up to 10 years. Staff's recommendation is to determine the project categorically exempt based on the Commonwealth common sense categories from the provisions of CEQA, to approve a conditional use permit to authorizing a cannabis retail use in a 1,821 square foot suite of a commercial plan development to be developed at the subject site. And 3, recommend to the City Council approval of an ordinance to enter into and execute a development agreement as prepared by staff to establish certain development rights in exchange for public benefits for up to 10 years. The applicant is present this evening and would like to share a prepared presentation during the public hearing testimony. Staff, city attorney, and the applicant are available and open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, if the applicant would like to come to the podium and address to the Planning Commission, they may do so. There is a time limit of 10 minutes.
I'm still sharing.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank the city's planning division, Ms. Mona Mosaeb, Mr. Stephen Jones, and Mr. Gustavo Romo. Thank you all for getting us here, tirelessly worked with us. And also, I would like to thank the 3 commissioners that are here today to hear and consider this project. All right. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, I just want to begin introducing ourselves. We're Kush Company. We're one of the original cultivators in California. We're vertically integrated. We are seed to sale. We start from the early stage of cultivation all the way into distribution, getting it tested and distributed to multiple stores across California. We are known for our OG, and we feel as though the OG is the most original strain, and it is kind of like the Big Mac. And we sell that to all the stores, and we have won multiple awards due to our OG, and we stay true to what we are. And our quality speaks for itself, and we feel that quality is the most important part of business. Our management team has years of experience in multiple cities with cultivation, distribution, and retail. Next slide, please. Community is everything. We must all work together to uphold the sentiments of love and camaraderie. We shouldn't bicker. We're a community. We need to find common ground because fighting doesn't help anyone, bickering doesn't help anyone. Working things out together is the way to make a group into a community, a society that benefits each other. I just want to explain our initial project, and we heard the planning commission, we heard the comments, the public comments, and we decided to react to it and change it to the better. We downsized our building. We brought the scale down significantly from a 2-story building to a single story. We decreased the square footage from close to 11,000 to 7,000 square feet. We heard the public outcry with the medical office that there was, it was right next door. We increased the buffer from close to 5 feet to 150 feet. We also, instead of having one single cannabis store on the single first floor, we increased it from 1 to 7 businesses. So as this would not only be a cannabis store, but it would be a cannabis store, a coffee shop, a hair salon, all sorts of different types of uses to not single out cannabis, just have it be just like any other store. We also want to state that the 2 other operators that have already been approved by the city council, Mr. Nice Guy, for instance, is located right next to a medical office, which is not considered a sensitive use, which is why the city council approved it. Off the Charts is located adjacent. They share a common wall. They're within the same building as a market where individuals of all ages attend. They go shopping. We currently do not have any neighbors. We're in a shopping center that is owned by the same landlord. We also will be providing EV charging and a courtyard area. So it will be a communal area. It will be a place where people can congregate, meet, talk, discuss politics, life, family, love, anything their heart desires. It's not a cannabis project. It is more than that. It is a communal area where people can congregate. We, as a store, will always be open to any sort of criticism. Our doors are open to everyone. We're there to educate anyone who comes into the store. We have a cannabis expert at all times who can answer any question. We are a supporter of the Southeast Leadership Network to benefit the arts program in the city of Bell Gardens. We are currently in negotiations with the American Legion, and we have done community outreach and collected signatures from close to 100 residents within a 600 feet radius to our city, and I would like to submit that for the record. And next slide, please. And I would just like to say thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We will now move over to commissioner questions or comments. The applicant is also free to stay up in the podium in case any questions are directed towards them. I will begin by asking the applicant if they currently have any cannabis operations with nearby neighbors who are local businesses, and how would you describe your relationship with them?
Yeah, so our closest project to the city of Bell Gardens is in Montebello. It's a mile away with a straight line. We're located right on Telegraph Road and Slauson. We have we're in a condominium association of 17 units. We share common walls with 5 neighbors. So we do cultivation, indoor cultivation. We have over 20,000 square feet of cultivation of plants of all stages. We have never had a complaint from the city regarding smell ever in our operations. Any issue that we've even had with a neighbor, it's always been solved, never had any smell, noise issues, and cultivation is the it's the strongest use. You don't have much of an odor from a store, you don't have much noise. It's more of an heavy industrial use, and we've never had an issue. Because we have 2 carbon filters in every single room. We sealed all of our walls. Keep in mind, we have a letter purse bag distributor next to us, and letter soaks up any smell, and he's never complained because it would have been a loss on his end if that odor got to it. But we sealed everything. You can't smell it from outside. You can't smell it from the neighbor.
Thank you. And also full disclosure, I did meet with the applicant to tour one of a retail cannabis shop, which is also operated by yourself, correct?
But by me and my partner, yes.
By you and your partner, gotcha. One thing that stood out to me during that visit was that the retail store is an open floor format. And the check-in area was within about 10 feet from stepping into the sales floor. My question to the applicant is, have you had any issues in terms of security with this check-in approach where there's not necessarily a lobby or a security check-in?
No, stores have traditionally had lobbies. However, due to the laws and regulations, they're allowed to not have lobbies, and most owners and operators try to shy away from lobbies to not give it that illegal trap store visual, more to give it an open floor plan, make it like any other store, make it easy for people to come in and not feel like they're in an illegal store. It's a legal store just like any other legal store. We've never had any issues. We've never had a reason to call the cops, knock on wood. We have security during the day and during the night. And the only time that the security would not be at its post is if it's during his 15-minute break, for instance.
Now that you mentioned security, could you tell us a little bit more about the security plan that you propose to have, in this location?
Yeah, so the security plan, we plan to have security 24 hours a day, which is why we have a secured bathroom outside. It's to provide the security guard a place to go to use the restroom, because in other places, what happens is the security guard has to take a drive to 7-Eleven, and what happens is the spot gets open and it's not safe anymore. So we want to make sure that the security guard is always present. We're going to have 24-hour CCTV, HD security cameras that go back at least 90 days. We have limited access within the store, commercial grade locks, gated entries.
And this question is directed to staff. I reviewed the previous floor plans from Mr. Nice Guy and Off the Charts, and both of these entities have some sort of like lobby or security check-in. Is that a requirement or is that just up to the applicant's discretion to implement into their floor plan? I'm also more than happy to have legal's input on this in regards to the changes in regulation to this.
A check-in area, this is Stephen Jones, city planner, is required. Whether or not it's separate and apart is more to city discretion. So it's been our custom to ask for that separated from the rest of the retail area, but it's not actually a requirement to separate it. It's just required that it be a check-in area.
Is there any way we could recommend to have the applicant implement like a security lobby or, make a change that's consistent to the other applicants in terms of like security check-in? Does the commission have any say on that or is the plan just
We-
approved as is?
Excuse me if I can speak, we will have a security check-in, is required by law. And we will have it as close as possible to the entry and to make sure that there is no cannabis within the vicinity. Potentially even considering having it outside due to the corner location as well. We haven't finalized that decision, but we can have it on the outside as well.
Thank you very much. And the applicant also mentioned charging stations. We currently do not have any in the city, but my question to staff is there any sort of permit process that we have to go through to implement these or is that just navigated when we reach that point in the development process?
Stephen Jones, city planner again. At this point, Mr. Chair, the EV or the electric vehicle charging is for capability. And so that it's something that could be installed in terms of infrastructure when required if the applicant so chooses, either or. At this point, the permitting process to establish one is just under the site plan review. We're actually working on an EV charging station streamlining ordinance so that that'll be a little easier to meet regional goals and contribute to the state's goals. But the EV charging for now is for the capability so that when and if it become required or if the applicant so chooses, he can develop that. It would be a regular site plan review processing without discretion at that point. So ministerially.
Thank you very much. That concludes my questions at this time. Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Chairperson. You actually covered some of the questions I was going to ask, especially with some residents and business owners concerned about the order. So thank you for mentioning as far as you basically restructured to a single story, right? For those reasons. And not only that, you said 150 feet away now?
Yeah,
Opposed to what?
Opposed to 5 feet.
Okay, that's big.
Yeah.
You covered the lighting plan, odor mitigation, security plan. I think that's all I have for now. And then parking, that's another thing. 30 spaces, right?
Yes,
Okay, so there's no reason for anybody going to the retail location, parking into another business owner's property.
no, we're well over the limit,
Thank you.
well over the requirement.
Thank you.
If I may, what's your plan for how many EV stations, parking stations would you consider in the future?
I do not have the plans on me, but I believe it was 9 or 11 spots.
That's a good amount. It's a lot, actually.
I'm saying it off the top of my head, but I believe it was around that range.
Okay.
It is in the staff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I saw 30 spaces that you're providing and it would be about 10 then, or
Yeah.
9 that you
Yeah.
would be.
And we do have bicycle parking in 2 different spots as well
Okay.
for
sure.
employees and customers.
Okay. A question to our chair. You visited the ZZ Fuzz, I believe.
ZZ Flux, yes.
Flux, is that the facility that you visited?
Correct, yes.
Great, great. When getting out of your car in the parking lot, did you smell any marijuana?
I did not know. It was up until I surpassed the check-in area, which was about 10 feet away from the main entrance. That's when, you kind of start seeing I believe they call it flower. They're positioned towards the end of the retail space. And that's when you start, kind of, getting some sense or hints of cannabis, but, I did not notice it, spilling out to the, outside areas of the retail space.
Yeah, I concur. I visited the same location. Yeah.
What was your take on that? Like, did you also, not getting hints of the smell?
I was surprised as well to see that it lacked separation of like, you go in and you have a locked door in front of you and then they let you in once they see that you're probably okay to answer or something. It felt a lot more mainstream, like it's almost like if you were shopping for like a new phone or something. Instead of hey, I'm gonna go buy a drug.
I agree on that. And, as soon as I walked in, I did not see right off the bat, like any, cannabis product it was mainly like, apparel in the beginning, and then it filters out to,
Yeah.
cannabis product towards the rear of the shop. Which brings me to a question to the applicant. In terms of product, is that mainly stored in the retail space, or do you guys have product in the storage space, as you mentioned in the floor plan, and then brought up to the
So,
sales
We will
floor?
have both in the storage and also behind the counters where it is accessible to only staff. But nothing on the actual retail showroom unless it's a sample for a customer to look at or smell, or a locked sample.
So that sample does not have any cannabis product. It's just for tasting, or
And it's for instance, a cannabis flower that you can visually inspect. However, it's secured that you can't grab it and walk away with it, for instance. It's just there for you to look at and to smell. And if you like it, you would go to the POS, to the cash register, and purchase that 8 ounce or 8.
right? Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
Not at this time.
Nothing on my end, but thank you both for sharing
Yeah.
your experiences.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, Stephen Jones, City Planner again, if I may, to follow up on Commissioner Ramirez's question about number of EV capable spaces. So with the code pursuant to the section here, for 30 spaces, 11 EV capable spaces would be required. So we're asking for 11, and that's where the infrastructure is installed, not necessarily a charging station at this point. And a little clarity actually would be for staff. Did the chair have a concern about the check-in area and whether or not you guys wanted to see something else? Did you get your concern addressed?
Yes, from my
Okay.
understanding is that a check-in area is required, but not necessarily a lobby
Right.
dedicated just for
Okay.
security check-in.
Understood.
Yeah,
That's correct. And if the commission wanted something else, we just wanted to make sure there's nothing that you wanted to put in as a condition.
thank you, City Planner. If there are no more questions, we will now open public comments for this item.
Thank you.
Secretary, would you please announce the instructions for public participation?
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the public hearing item number 2. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker's written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone when instructed. Dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from the members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now.
Hey, may we please have Luis Gutierrez come to the front?
Good evening. My name is Luis Gutierrez. And I'm here to talk a little bit about this subject. I hope it serves of something because it seems like you guys are all already convinced about this, but all I hear is the inner four walls of this business that's proposed. I don't see any concern in the effects it's gonna do to the community, to the surroundings. I've had three concerns. I've been in Bell Gardens since 1984 as a business person, so I think I can consider myself a native Bell Garden. And my concerns, I thought, were at first were because I'm old or I'm old fashioned, but I did a little research on the internet, on the webpage, on some of these pages that give information. And my three concerns are, one is the value of property around these dispensaries, what happens to them? My second concern is the rise in crime in these areas. And the third is the smell. Now, the first one, according to the website, the Zebra, they did a survey where 54% of people were not willing to buy property within a square mile of a dispensary. What does that mean? It means that no demand, the property value goes down. And I don't think it's fair to put a business that has a negative impact to the community for the benefit of just one person. The second concern is, this is from the website, the National Association of Realtors. And they state that up to 28% of commercials neighboring these dispensaries witness a increase in crime, a cash crime. What that means is that muggings, holdups, commercial robberies are gonna go up and rise. I mean, we don't need to close our eyes. Bell Garden has an issue with crime as it is already, especially in our area there. And this is just gonna add fuel to it. The third, I do a lot of traveling in LA and cities around, and I can always tell when there's a dispensary or anything that deals with cannabis because it's a strong smell. And every time I leave those areas, I can tell you if it's needed to be told. I can tell you where these areas are at, and you can go for yourself and find out. It's a very strong smell. When I leave with a headache, and sometimes I feel like vomiting. I wonder to myself, what's gonna happen to us as neighborhood when we're forced to smell this all day long? Thank you for your time.
May we please have Dr. Angela Chen?
Thank you very much for giving the opportunity again. And thank you, Erica, for this morning just mentioned to us that the first one is already withdrawn. So all our record is archived. And also I just literally resent again to according with the second one. Maybe you can check it out again to receive. That is according to the second, the number, whatever ending with a 006 or 0054. I just wanted to reinforce again here, these 39 patient plus, my nurse practitioner, these patients are with those chronic medical condition, not just limiting to diabetes, kidney transplant patients, amputated patients with the prosthesis, wheelchair-bound patients from the neuromuscular dystrophy, lifelong patients are the ones that come into our clinic. Let's stop and think about it. A mother coming in with a child, baby in the stroller. After picking up a child, a kid from the school, walking to the clinic. That's what they are coming in. How are they going to, how the city would say that this is the environment that you will want your community to be in there? I'm so surprised by hearing this today. I have many things to say, but just by listening, I have the same feeling like Mr. Gutierrez saying, is the public voice is even going to consider it at all? I don't have that feeling. This is just one example. I have many patients that he is willing to come in with his amputated foot, with the prosthesis, but unfortunately, he cannot afford to come in here. He usually walk to the clinic. So in around there, with the safety, like Mr. Gutierrez mentioned, everybody know what does it mean in the safety and the location. I'm a medical doctor. I know what a drugs do, pros and cons of those. What the substance can do to a person. Logic, illogic reaction, unpredictable, unprecedented event will be happening. These are just a reminder call. And so think about it. Let's think about it. Do we want our children, do we want our family members to be living in those environments and to come to a visit to a medical clinic to get the health care? I humbly only request commissioners, city to reconsider relocating the area, the proposed site to the different location. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Up next, may we have Donald Hun?
Hello, city members. I think I sent this through email. I don't know you guys have it yet. It's letters from both me and my tenants. I'm the adjacent property owner. My shopping plaza is next to the proposed address. So I missed the first part because of traffic. The candidate presentation, it seems like he already shrink the original plan into a smaller one and move to the corner. But from my tenants, especially the retail pharmacy, she's the one who is strongly against a cannabis business next to our plaza. Because we even measure the distance is less than 150 feet from the vacant lot to her storefront. So, and from my view is the property value. We had three, two and two small ones, vacant spaces. We have potential tenants come to meet us, but recently we are connecting with this adult day healthcare center. They are like senior services. And when they hear, oh, the vacant lot may become a cannabis business, they simply say no, they have to stay far away from them. Otherwise, they cannot get their license from the state. So if they come, our property value will drop for sure. And I believe it will happen to all the other properties around this area. Even the city can benefit from the cannabis business, but all the other businesses surrounding will drop the value. And I have other concerns from my tenant 7-Eleven, because they open 24/7 and they witness incidents, violence incident happen in the plaza. because homeless hang around after 6, 5, 8 p.m. All the other business close. The homeless get fight. They even call the police. I had the footage from the surveillance camera. We are afraid with this upcoming cannabis business, this kind of violence will happen more. So violence, healthcare concern, and the property value concern, that's all our concerns. Even they adjust their plan, they shrink their site or anything. So please read these letters again with their new sites, their new plan. It doesn't really matter from our perspective. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Planning Secretary, do we have any questions online?
Let me see if there's anyone in the chat line wishing to speak on this item. You may do so at this time by pressing *6 from your phone to unmute yourself. And Chairperson, it looks like we do not have anybody in the chat line wishing to speak on this item. And I also did want to mention for the record, we did receive 8 written comments that were submitted and have been distributed to the commission and will be incorporated into the minutes and made available as part of the record. And I also did want to mention that we received 94 letters in favor in support of this item that were just hand delivered by the applicant at the beginning of the meeting.
Thank you, Planning Secretary. I do have a question directed to the applicant if they would like to come forward. I did notice 3 concerns in common with all these public comments. One of them being odor mitigation. Could you inform us a little bit more as to how your plan is, to mitigate the odor in the planned retail space?
Sure. I've never had issues with odor in a store. It's not a smoking lounge. It is a retail store, just like a supermarket. Although the tomatoes are canned in the aisle, you can't smell canned tomatoes. They're in the can, they're closed. Everything that is in the store is sealed. It's child protected. There is no smell coming off of it. Even the clones that we have, it would be if we choose to have clones to sell, which is the baby cannabis plant, which we're allowed to sell, it would be in a corner and it would be a handful, and the smell of that is non-existent, to be honest. It's very minor, and there will be a charcoal carbon filter in the retail space and in the storage to counteract any type of smell, so it doesn't leave the facility.
Thank you very much. Another common topic or concern is security. Could you again, go more in depth as to what your security plan is? You have multiple neighbors or businesses as well. Even though there's a buffer that that was increased with this new CUP, how do you plan to maintain the block or the area surrounding you as safe as possible?
Actually, I will not maintain it because currently it's clear that they are having an issue with crime, and it isn't safe. The 7-Eleven shopping center next door is a vacant lot. There is nothing that's affecting it, and it's currently plagued with crime. When we come here, we will provide 24-hour security, and it's akin and probably more influential than a neighborhood watch, because it will keep eyes on Eastern and Priori to make sure if there is any crime, the security guard knows. They are calling the Bell Gardens Police Department immediately, and that will help all of the neighbors in the vicinity. They do not have that currently. You visited ZZ Flux. We've never had to call the cops. We've never had any issues there. And believe me, it is also in downtown LA. It's not in an area that is away from violence. However, when there is a security guard, when there is security cameras, it's natural for the location to get much safer than without one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any other questions?
Hi, not to the applicant at this time.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the things, people who opposed this, brought to our attention, which is very important. Thank you for coming up and speaking. Just because we acknowledge the fact that we can't smell it from outside doesn't mean that we're pro it. I simply acknowledged it. It's an observation. If anything, I was surprised. I was expecting to smell it, as you said. I visited their cultivation facility, literally a farm indoors, right? I didn't smell anything from the outside either. Pleasant surprise there too. I guess I expected to smell, right? It's a farm. So with that regard, I think the smell address, I don't think it's a valid one at this time. The 7-Eleven owner of the plaza addressed the concerns of devaluation and crime, but yet, and if he wants to speak, I would like to hear how he's addressed it. The homeless, because that 7-Eleven is the one that I use. So I visited, right? And I do see the homeless there, and I see them often, and I see nothing being done about it, right? So I'm genuinely curious how they've resolved it. I'm not saying that, you guys have a problem and they're not gonna have a problem. I'm genuinely curious now at this point, because this is a concern that, you're not understanding or anything. I'm just curious at this point. Devaluation wise, I do wonder if there's a legitimate concern to that, seeing as if there's going to be EV charging. I'm not sure if any of you guys have EV cars. You spend about 45 minutes there. If anything, you can grab a pizza and go to 7-Eleven and get some food. I'm not saying that they're going to do that, nor am I saying they're going to put chargers, but they've shown intent, and I don't know if the devaluation claim is valid at this moment, because what's to say that, sometimes I don't take my son to 7-Eleven because there's homeless people there, and I don't want them to get haggled and, hey, how's some of this and some of that. I'm simply just observing things I've seen, because like you, I've been here since 1990. I live here. I use the park probably 4 times a day. I smell more weed at the park than any other place, Food for Less, any other place I visit. I smell more weed there. I don't think people are going to be smoking outside this facility. I don't think that's a valid statement, because first of all, they won't allow it. They don't do it now, right? And when the security, I don't think that they're going to do it. So that's just my observations from actually living in the city for 30 plus years. But like I said, thank you for bringing that to our attentions. I would like to hear you guys out.
Definitely. Thank you for your comment, Commissioner Ramirez. Same in my regard. I was genuinely surprised that there was even a cultivation facility nearby that I was not aware of. It's heavily secured, with a front gate. But even then, from that distance, I did not detect any odor up until entering the facility itself. Same applies towards the retail store. No odor whatsoever upon entering the parking lot. But that was just my observation and my perspective. Again, it does not correlate to me being already quote unquote convinced as it was stated, but it was just merely me transparently expressing what I observed and what I saw firsthand. And with that said, any other questions or comments before we entertain a motion in regards to this item?
I just want to add to it as far as crime. I think all of us, I'm concerned about it too. And having security is actually important because I work in Pasadena. I work clinical trials, so I'm really well versed in healthcare. I've been working for 20 past years, right? Been a resident here, so I was born here. I take care of my parents since 1977. And crime was awful here in Bell Gardens. Then it improved, and now it got awful again. And in Pasadena right now, especially where I work at, there's a bunch of homeless people everywhere. So when I go into the office at 7 o'clock, there's people just laying out in front of our front door, basically our office building. And luckily I have to call security, and security will come and take care of that problem, and then call Pasadena Police Department. But it's happening in every city right now. As far as the doctor's concerned, we're hearing all of you, like I am too, because my parents are old folks. They they have chronic illnesses as well, so I'm concerned about certain smells as well. I mean, we had a strong smell basically where I live at on Ira, and it's basically the sanitation. The sewer lines are fixing them. There's still like a strong smell. So I bought air filters, kinds of stuff, right, to take care of them. So we're hearing all of you, because even based on our last meeting too. Thank you, doctor, for showing up. That was one of the things why I just couldn't. I needed more information to gather. It doesn't mean that we're not listening to all, because we are. And right now, I'm just taking every consideration as well. Now with the applicant as well, they've done some major changes as well. So, and then based on what we've done in the past with the other dispensary, I mean, they've actually done more than the others and made changes. Also with the first dispensary that we approved, I had concerns as well because of the neighbors. They had concerns, and luckily, I think it was Mr. Nice Guy. They actually worked with their neighbors and they came to an agreement. So, hopefully that could be done. That's all I have right now.
Thank you very much. If there are no more questions by the planning commission, I will now close public hearing at 6:17 PM. Now I'd like to entertain a motion in regards to staff's recommendation.
Actually, I have one more comment, actually, for the applicant, regarding that communal area. So it's open to the public or for only, individuals that are shopping in your new shopping center or retail offices?
Chairperson, if I may, sorry to interrupt. I believe we closed the public hearing. So if you want to just go ahead and reopen the public hearing for the comment.
All right, public hearing opens at 6:18 PM.
Shop from, let's say, whether it's a coffee shop or sandwich shop, whatever it is, it's open to the public. However, it will be maintained by the security guard to make sure that there is no issues. And it's kept in a not neat and tidy and vagrant free way.
That was my concern. That's
Yeah.
what I wanted to know, right? If others go there, and let's say a homeless person.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's our concern too. We don't want that. We want it to be safe for anyone who visits the property.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are no more questions, I will close public hearing at 6:18 PM. Right. Motion to approve staff's recommendations. This includes conditional use permit, CUP, and DA. CEQA. May I have a sec?
I second that.
Planning Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Sure. Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yes.
and Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, public comment is now open for items not listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Planning Secretary, will you please announce the instructions?
The public comment is now open for items listed on the Planning Commission agenda, listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from the members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. And it looks like we did not receive any comment cards, Chairperson. And I
Okay.
can check to see if there's anyone in the chat line wishing to speak on items on the agenda. If you'd like to speak on any item, go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself at this time. And it looks like we don't have anyone in the chat line wishing to speak, Chairperson.
Thank you, Planning Secretary. If there's no objection by the Planning Commission, public participation for agenda items will be closed. And now we will move on to consent calendar number 3. Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to pull any item out of the agenda or consent calendar? Not, I would like to make a motion to approve the attached minutes. May I have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do a roll call. Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yes.
and Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes. Public comment is now open for items not listed on the agenda. Secretary, will you please conduct the instructions for public participation?
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now for items not listed on the Planning Commission agenda. So it looks like we did not receive any comment cards, Chairperson, and I will go ahead and see if there's anyone in the chat line right now wishing to speak on any item not listed on the agenda. And it does not look like we have anyone in the chat line.
Thank you, Planning Secretary. If there's no objection by the Planning Commission, public comments for non-agenda items is now closed. Staff, any comments?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. This next item is to update the Planning Commission on recommendations that you specifically sent to City Council and for Community Development Department activities. During the June 24th council meeting, second readings for ordinances number 940 and 941 to authorize development agreements for public benefits in exchange for up to 10 years of vested development rights were heard and adopted. So those should be effective 30 days from the 24th of June, which is coming up in the next week. So for Mr. Nice Guy and off the charts their development agreements can be signed. The second reading for ordinance number 944 to regulate banquet facilities in the industrial zone, which is another ordinance that the commission recommended approval of, was heard for a second reading and would also be effective after June 24th. The council adopted also at that meeting a resolution authorized a first amendment to the PSA for Impact Sciences so that they could wrap up and complete the development of the final draft EJ element to the Bell Gardens general plan. That will be heard by the council on Monday, July 22nd. And then with biweekly updates, rent stabilization and tenant eviction protection, administration and implementation efforts continue. So we're working on rental assistance and public education workshops regularly. The ECRG, which is a grant to clean up the hazardous waste site on Shule Street, formerly known as the Burke Oil Site, is continuing, and there was a milestone reached in terms of that grant. We were able to finalize the Resources Construction Company to conduct the physical work, which they anticipate to commence within the next weeks, and it will take about 70 days to export that soil and import clean soil. And that would make way for the affordable housing development that's anticipated there. The new El Super grand opening is anticipated in the coming days, so staff's working on that. And staff's also working on what we discussed earlier, an EVCS, electric vehicle charging station streamlining ordinance to help with the infrastructure implementation. Again, that assists with climate and energy goals for the state as well as our city. And that will work in tandem with what we also have coming in terms of a climate action plan. So that's all happened in the last month or so since the last time we met. Both the solar app and the permit tracking systems are online for limited permit issuance, facilitation, and rental unit registration and payments. And this concludes staff comments. I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any other comments or questions before concluding the meeting? If not, we will adjourn the meeting at 6:29 p.m.
I do want to say
Oh.
something, but I want to thank those who came and attended the meeting today. And thank you for your concerns. And it's hard for us too. At the end of the day, we do give recommendations to city officials. And these ordinances were passed when in the last year, right? They were passed last year. So all we're doing here is basically making recommendations on the sites, but that was passed a year ago based on a decision that happened in our city council meeting. But your voice does count, and we do hear you. Just want to make sure y'all know that. And I also want to thank city staff for all the amazing work that you all do every single day, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boado.